Hello viewers. In yesterday's video I talked about the rivalry between two of the best tennis players of all time, Roger Federer and Rafael Nadal, and I felt I should also talk about the rivalry between Roger Federer and Novak Djokovic, as well as the rivalry between Rafael Nadal and Novak Djokovic. Now, before we get into the deeper details of the rivalry, I just want to state the statistics, and let's start with Roger Federer versus Novak Djokovic. Overall, Novak Djokovic leads the head-to-head 27-23. If you just look at the matches Federer played against Djokovic in the majors, that is Australian Open, French Open, Wimbledon and US Open, then again Djokovic leads 11-6. If you just look at the finals of these major events, Djokovic still leads 4-1. In fact, Roger Federer only defeated Novak Djokovic in their first ever encounter in a Grand Slam final, which was in the United States Open. I believe it was 2007. When it comes to surfaces, this is more interesting. On clay, both Federer and Djokovic have won 4 matches each against each other. When it comes to grass, Novak Djokovic leads 3-1. And all of us remember all the memorable matches they played against each other at Wimbledon. The only instance where Federer defeated Djokovic was in 2012. On outdoor hard courts, it's the more evenly contested affair where Djokovic leads 14-13. And on indoor hard courts, Djokovic still leads 7-5. Now let's look at the individual major events. We'll start with the Australian Open. In the Australian Open, Djokovic leads 4-1. The first match that Djokovic played against Federer in the Australian Open, he lost, but he went on to win the subsequent 4 matches, starting all the way back in 2008. In the French Open, they are tied 1-1 each. I remember the iconic match where Federer broke Djokovic's unbeaten streak in 2011, but Djokovic was able to win against Federer in 2012. In Wimbledon, as we said, Djokovic leads 3-1, and in the United States Open, they are tied 3-3 each. So on the surface, if you just look at these statistics, you would be forgiven to believe that Djokovic is leading in almost every category. No matter how you describe the statistics, he is in the lead. He has the better head-to-head against Federer. But if you have followed the careers of Roger Federer or Novak Djokovic, then you would understand it was not always this way. If you divide their careers, or especially if you divide Djokovic's career into 2 eras, the before 2011 era and 2011 onwards era, you will see 2 drastically different scenarios. Before 2011, in the overall category, Federer led 13-6. In the majors, Federer led 4-2. In the finals of majors, Federer led 1-0. They only met once in the finals. I believe it was in the Australian Open. It was in the US Open in 2007. On clay court, Federer led 2-1. On grass court, interestingly, there were no matches between Federer and Djokovic before 2011. So all the matches they played were 2011 or later. On outdoor hard courts, Federer led 8-4. On indoor hard courts, Federer led 3-1. In the Australian Open, they were tied at 1-1 each. Federer won in 2006, if I'm not wrong, and Djokovic won in 2008. In the French Open, Federer and Djokovic had no matches against each other before 2011. Same in Wimbledon, no matches before 2011. I believe their first encounter was in 2012, which Federer won and subsequently went on to lose the next 3 matches, including some of the most memorable matches played in Wimbledon history. In the US Open, Federer led 3-1. So look at this interesting phenomenon. Before 2011, Federer was leading in all the categories except a few where they were tied. But if you look at the career, if Djokovic's career started in 2011, and we just look at what happened 2011 onwards, then it's a completely different scenario. 2011 onwards, in the overall category, Djokovic leads 21-10. In the Grand Slams or the majors. Grand Slam technically is a term for winning all 4 majors in the calendar year, but loosely Grand Slams are used to describe the individual majors also. So I do have this bad habit of sometimes ending up using Grand Slams in the incorrect way. But okay, majors. In the majors, Djokovic leads 9-2. 2011 onwards. In the finals of majors, Djokovic has won all four of their encounters 2011 onwards. He only lost one match, I believe, in the US Open final in 2007. On clay court, Djokovic leads 3-2. On grass court, Djokovic leads 3-1. On outdoor hard courts, Djokovic leads 10-5. On indoor hard courts, Djokovic leads 6-2. In the Australian Open, Djokovic won all three of their encounters. At the French Open, they are tied 1-1, Djokovic and Federer. At Wimbledon, Djokovic leads 3-1. And in the US Open, Djokovic leads 2-0. Now, this is not just with Roger Federer. If you look at Djokovic's career and you divide them into the before 2011 and after 2011 era, this drastic improvement in his head-to-head as well as his winning major titles and becoming arguably the greatest tennis player of all time is also reflected when we look at his record against the other great tennis player, Rafael Nadal. So let's now have a brief look at the rivalry between Rafael Nadal and Novak Djokovic. So first let's look at the overall stats without breaking it into two categories. So overall, Djokovic leads Nadal 31-29. In majors, Nadal leads 11-7. In finals of majors, Nadal still leads 5-4. On clay court, of course, Nadal leads 29, but there is a deeper story to this. It's not just Nadal's one-sided dominance on clay. In fact, Djokovic is the only person who really did trouble Nadal even on clay. On grass, they are tied, Nadal and Djokovic at 2-2. On outdoor hard courts, Djokovic really builds up a lead, 16-5. On indoor hard courts, Djokovic still leads 4-2. At the Australian Open, Djokovic has won both of their encounters, including, in my opinion, the greatest tennis match ever played, the 2012 Australian Open final. At the French Open, Nadal leads 8-2. Nadal's lead at the French Open, 8-2, clearly illustrates how dominant Nadal was at the French Open. At Wimbledon, Djokovic leads 2-1. And at the US Open, again Nadal leads 2-1. So it's not a clear-cut dominant picture as it was seen against Federer, where Djokovic led in almost every category. Here it's a more mixed picture. And also the overall head-to-head, Djokovic is only ahead by 2 wins. I don't think they'll ever play against each other professionally, but you could even argue that there is a possibility Nadal could turn the overall head-to-head in his favor if they continued playing for a longer duration. But Nadal, as you know, has announced his retirement. If we break this overall statistics into the two categories that we used for describing the Federer-Djokovic rivalry, that is before 2011 and 2011 onwards, then again we see a very interesting picture. Nadal absolutely dominated Djokovic before 2011. So in the overall category, before 2011, Nadal led 16-7 against Djokovic. At majors, Nadal led 5-0. He won all of the 5 encounters at the majors. So Nadal led Djokovic 5-0 at the majors. In major finals, Nadal led 1-0. On clay court, Nadal led 9-0. 9-0 on clay court. So in terms of surface-wise dominance, it is more clearly seen in the rivalry between Nadal and Djokovic, where Nadal clearly dominated on clay and Djokovic clearly dominated on hard court. On grass, Nadal led 2-0, and this is against a player who has so many victories at Wimbledon. I believe he has won 7 titles in Wimbledon. On outdoor hard courts, Djokovic still retained the lead of 5-3. So it's not like all in Nadal's favor before 2011 and all in Djokovic's favor 2011 onwards, as it was seen in the Federer-Djokovic equation. In the Nadal-Djokovic equation, Nadal dominates on every other surface, but Djokovic is able to retain his dominance on outdoor hard courts before 2011, and we look at after 2011 onwards a bit later. On indoor hard courts, there's a tie of 2 matches won each by Nadal and Djokovic. If you look at the majors, starting with the French Open, then Nadal led 3-0. He won all of the 3 encounters at the French Open before 2011. At Wimbledon, Nadal won the only encounter they had, and at the United States Open, again Nadal won their only encounter. So it's fairly one-sided dominance in Nadal's favor against Djokovic before 2011. Now, 2011 onwards, things change. In the overall situation, Djokovic won 24 times and Nadal only won 13 times. At majors, Djokovic won 7 times, but Nadal also won 6 times. So it is not a one-sided dominance that was seen in the Djokovic-Federer rivalry. Even 2011 onwards, at majors, Djokovic won 7 times, but Nadal won 6 times. I believe a lot of this has to do with Nadal's prowess at the clay court of the French Open. In major finals, they are tied 4-4, even 2011 onwards. So, a very effective argument can be made that Nadal was the only player who was able to defeat Djokovic even when he was winning everywhere. On clay court, this is the most interesting finding. The record is in favor of Nadal, but it is only slightly in favor of Nadal 2011 onwards. On clay court, 2011 onwards, Nadal leads Djokovic 11-9, only by 2 matches. That's a very tight record on clay against inarguably the greatest clay court tennis player of all time. So Djokovic was able to defeat Nadal in 9 out of the 20 encounters on clay. Nadal still leads 11-9, but it's a very small lead on Nadal's favorite surface, 2011 onwards. On grass, Djokovic leads 2-0. On outdoor hard courts, Djokovic absolutely dominates with 11-2 against Nadal, and on indoor hard courts, Djokovic leads 2-0. If you look at the encounters in majors, then we start with the Australian Open where Djokovic won both of the encounters. The French Open, Nadal leads 5-2. He was defeated twice by Djokovic. Djokovic is the only player to defeat Nadal twice in the French Open. You can fact check me on that. At Wimbledon, Djokovic won both of the encounters. In the US Open, interestingly, again there is a tie of 1-1. So it's not one-sided. Do you see that? But if you look at the Nadal-Djokovic rivalry and you focus on the fact that before 2011, Djokovic was only able to defeat Nadal with any degree of confidence on outdoor hard courts, you see that after 2011 onwards, Djokovic was able to defeat Nadal even on clay, even twice in the French Open. And Nadal was still able to win matches against Djokovic on his favorite surface, outdoor hard court at the US Open, even when Djokovic was winning against almost everyone. So it's a very interesting description of the rivalries between Federer and Djokovic and Nadal and Djokovic, and it can clearly be described by dividing Djokovic's career into 2 eras, before 2011 and 2011 onwards. Djokovic, of course, was able to become a supreme winning force, and he's still winning, and I wish him all the success in his future endeavors. Thank you for watching this video. Take care, bye bye, and please don't forget to be awesome.